In response to Joab's rather forthright advice to David, the king took up his place at the gate of the city so that he was able to express his appreciation to the people who had so selflessly fought for him. Arrangements then had to be made to bring the king back to Jerusalem, and a number of people met him on the way. First of these was Shimei, the man who had cursed David and then thrown stones and dust at him as he fled. He had to grovel to the king, of course. But then we're reminded about Mephibosheth. We're going to read about his meeting with David in 2 Samuel chapter 19 between verses 24 and 30. And Mephibosheth the son of Saul came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he came again in peace. And it came to pass, when he was come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said unto him, Wherefore wentest not thou with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. And the king said unto him, Why speakest thou any more of thy matters? I have said, Thou and Ziba divide the land. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, Yea, let him take all, for as much as my lord the king is come again in peace unto his own house. Mephibosheth is a lovely character because he bears the features of his father Jonathan. We thought previously about how the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. 1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 1. Mephibosheth was just like that. He never forgot the debt that he owed to David, who had brought him up from Lo-debar, from the house of no pasture, with the promise that he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. Chapter 9 verse 11. He seemed to live in the good of the exhortation, Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Isaiah 51 and verse 1. Now, I have no doubt that Mephibosheth was a devoted man, and it was demonstrated by the fact that all the time that David had been away from Jerusalem as the rejected king, Mephibosheth had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he came again in peace. Verse 24. He mourned in the absence of the rightful king. And that lovely attitude of heart comes as a challenge to me. We live in the time of our Lord's absence, and I wonder whether we miss his presence in the way that Mephibosheth did. He had little interest in the normal things of life, and perhaps we have far too much interest in them. As David fled Jerusalem, Mephibosheth's servant Ziba slandered him with these words, Behold, he, that is Mephibosheth, abideth at Jerusalem, for he said, Today shall the house of Israel restore me the kingdom of my father. Chapter 16 verse 3. It was a deliberate lie. Mephibosheth had wanted to go with David, but his servant deceived him. We read that in verse 26. In order to get his property for himself. But Mephibosheth wasn't interested in the things of the world. His only interest was in the king. If he could have the presence of the king, he was happy to let go of stuff. Let him take all, he said in verse 30. So what about us? What is the focus of our interest? Are we more interested in the here and now, or in the hereafter? May the Lord increase our devotion to himself and keep us separate from the things of time.